Guys, I am introducing you guys to your next project, which is going to be tracing a more complex image to get you more familiarly acquainted with the pen tool and the selection tools, as well as line and fill color. So let's get started here. I'm going to quickly set everything back to the way it should kind of look on your screen and go from here. I'm going to go File, New, go through these settings until I go to print, and I want to hit on US letter, and I'm going to change this to inches just so I can make sure that it's correct. US letter is always 8.5 by 11 inches. Hit create. First thing we need to do now is bring in the image we are going to be using, which can be found in the pickup folder. It is an image of Spongebob. We go to place, grab Spongebob, and it'll just, you get this on your icon, you click, and it'll let you place it. Going up to our selection tools up here, going to grab this black arrow and click on him and center him. Thank you to Colin in the AM class for taking the SpongeBob out of his background for us, because we will be using him to trace our own SpongeBob. Alright, so first things first, we are going to need to turn this into a transparency layer so that you can trace over it easier and it locks the layer for you. My layer panel is missing from over here because I accidentally closed it out. So I'm going to go up to Window, scroll all the way down, and hit Layer. What that did is that popped up my layers over here. What it might look like to you is these two little squares sitting on top of each other, and if you click it, this will pop open, and I just like to separate it so that it doesn't always minimize whenever I'm not clicking on it directly. Alright, so we're going to double click on Layer 1. I'm going to name it, actually we're not going to name it, it'll automatically name itself. We're going to hit Template, and then you see it's going to dim the image to 50%. I'm going to change that to a little bit more. I'm going to change it to 30 simply because I like to trace over a lighter image. And then I'm going to click OK. Looking back at our layers, Layer 1, which I am going to name Image, is now transparent and locked. And if you print, it should not show when you print it. We're going to create another layer, and this is the layer that we will be tracing upon. Over here at our toolbar, we have several things. We're going to want to use the pen tool. You guys should be somewhat familiar with it now. Do not use the brush tool for this assignment. All right? Going down here, we have the fill. This solid block is the fill. This block with the hole in it is the line. We do not want to fill color right away. So we're going to click on that, and you can either go up here and click on this X, or you can go up here and click on this. And I'm going to go down here just because it's quicker. Boom. Bring my line forward. And I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, or you can use the magnifying glass down here if you'd like. And we're going to start working on some SpongeBob here. The first thing I'm going to tackle is the front square of him. It'll make it easier for me later on. And we all kind of have some experience with how the curving on the line tool works with the pen tool. So we're going to click and drag. You see how when I'm dragging my mouse, it's creating that nice curve? That is what we're going to want to do for this image. So trying to follow the lines, I'm going to click and drag. And now what that has done is it's already set up another curve for me. You can see it in the way that the line is acting. I'm just going to use that and then click with this curve and then bend it down again like that. Because there is a dimple here, and I want to include that because this is all going to be one color, I'm going to click in the center of this anchor point. What that has done, it has given me the ability to take this line wherever I want to again without it bending. So I'm going to use that opportunity to make the bulge that is the dimple, and then go right back into doing the rounded parts of him. Okay. So I'm going to finish up this shape. Alright, one quick thing, I'm going to mess this up deliberately to show you this, is if I mess up and I want to correct this bend, if I hold down the Command key while I still have the pen tool, that allows me to get this white arrow, which you can also see up here. This white arrow allows me to edit the curves and the handles. See how that works? And the moment I take my hand off of the Command key, it will give me my pen tool again. And because that original curve was very dramatic and it's trying to give me this big, long, weird curve, I'm just going to click in the center again and get that curve back. Because the bow tie will eventually be on top of SpongeBob, I'm just going to do a straight line through there because it's not going to be visible, and then curve, curve, curve. And I'm just doing this quickly to get this done for you guys, but you guys should take more time. Once again, we've hit a dimple, so I'm going to click the center of my anchor point so that I can direct it any way I want without it curving. Go to where the dimple meets the outside line, and arc outward again, like that. And then clicking in the center, start up the curves around his spongy body again. All right. And remember, at any point I feel like I've messed up, I can either hit Command Z to undo, or I can hit Command and grab my little white arrow, which will allow me to edit it. It is very important when you're doing this that you use complete shapes. A lot of people will be tempted to just use different lines and then color behind with the brush. Once again, please don't use the brush. Now that this is a complete shape, I can fill it with color without the color being weird. If it's not a complete shape, like if there's sections of it missing, for example, if I grab my white arrow tool, click on a line and hit delete, and then maybe click on this line and hit delete, I start to have problems, don't I? We want complete shapes. I'm going to switch the line back on using that bent arrow. All right, so now that we have that as a complete shape, I'm going to start moving on to some of the details of the face. Over here on my layers, you can see that layer 2 is his body. I'm going to change that to front. And then I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to start working on the new layer. I'm going to lock this layer for good measure. I'm going to show you some tricks with the ellipse tool right now, because SpongeBob's eyes are pretty circular. So the ellipse tool is this circle tool. I'm going to grab it, go towards kind of the center of his eye, and hit Option Shift. That will allow me to create from the center an expanding eye. And I'm going to do that with his second eye too. As you may know, or may have noticed, there's some overlapping issues happening here with the second eye. And the second eye is also a little bit too big, so I'm just going to shrink it back down. Okay, backtracking really quick. The black arrow up here allows you to move and shrink and change the size of things. The white arrow allows you to take individual parts like this and mess with them. All right, so now that we have this issue going on, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to see what assets I have going on, or what points I have going on in this eye. Going to my pen tool, I'm going to click and hold down, and you see this thing that says Add Anchor Point Tool. Click on that. And then carefully zooming in, I'm going to take that right to where I see those intersecting parts and click. And what that did is it created an anchor point there. And then I'm going to do the same down here, click. And then I'm going to do the same where the nose starts. And then I'm going to do the same where the nose ends. Grabbing my white arrow tool afterwards, I can now grab these parts and delete them individually. And then I have to complete the shape. So I'm going to follow the curve of the nose. Oops. So what just happened there, you might have noticed, because I have a natural curve going with this, because of this shape that I just did, it wants to curve the eyeball line when I connect to it. To stop that from happening, you hold down Option, or Alt for Windows users, and then bend it upwards like that. And now I have that part of the eye. I'm also going to do that over here, up to here. And you see how that happened again when I went to connect the two, it bent the upper line. Hold your Option key, and there you go. So I have my two eyeballs. From there, I can start to add some of the other details of the face. This is where I really only just need a line for this part. The nose, take it all the way down and bubble it out like that. And it looks like it's connected. You could even go a bit rounder if it looks a bit odd from your direction, like that. And there. Because this is just a detail, because his nose is the same color as his body, we do not actually need to make it its own shape. We can use line segments. Same with the dimples. Oh, we've come to another issue over here. We'll tackle that in a moment. So I'm going to start on the dimple. There we go. It's not quite nice enough. There we are. And then this one down there. Okay, so we have an overlapping issue happening again. I need to cut off some parts of the eye. But because the eye is behind the dimple line, because the dimple line was drawn recently, I actually have to click on this before I add some extra anchor points. So going up to your pen tool, I'm going to click and hold, and add those extra anchor points there for the eyeball. And then grab your white arrow tool, click on it, delete that little middle part, grab your pen tool. Ooh, need to make sure that it'll actually... Sometimes it has an issue. Select it with your black arrow. Okay. So I'm having a bit of an issue. It won't let me connect the points because the cheek is actually overlapping. So I'm going to right click, go to Arrange, and Bring to Front. What that will do is it'll bring the eye shape to the front of the image, which will now allow me to select it with the anchor point tool and follow these curves. Remember to hold Option. There you go. Good. So from this point, I'm going to tackle the smile, which is going to be one complete shape, and because it's pretty much a crescent moon, it's not going to be that hard. I'm going to zoom out, go corner, corner, and then drag. And you can see it's not quite that perfect. So I'm actually going to take a bit more time with this one. I'm going to go to maybe the center of his smile between those two buck teeth and pull. Like this. And nope, not quite. Right there. Pull. There we go. And then pull. A lot of trial and error with the pen tool, but don't get frustrated with it because there's always the undo key, which is Command Z, and you can always, if you feel like you've messed up like this, grab the Option key and tweak it as you go along. All right, so now I want to finish the rest of the smile, but you can see this weird bend thing is happening again. So I'm going to click on the anchor, which will allow me to free draw with it again. I'm going to go down here, click and drag until I get that arc, and hopefully if I got the placement of that anchor right, it should, there we go, just line up perfectly like that. And I know that there's some places where it's not quite that fantastic, so I'm going to grab my white arrow tool up here, grab this anchor point, and using my arrow keys, just slightly shift it over and up until I feel like it's good. I can also use this white arrow to adjust the nodes and the turns. Awesome. Okay, so this one's a bit wonky too. Good. So from there, I'm going to zoom in, add some of these dimple lines over here, and over here. Actually, this isn't far enough up, so I'm going to click and drag, and then edit things because I'll need to, and then click, drag, arc. And now I have two dimples. Awesome. The eyelashes are easy. In fact, I'm going to show you how to use the line tool for those. I'm just going to grab this line segment and then click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. All right, easy. The eyes are also pretty simple. I'm going to grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to start with the iris, which is the blue part, and expand it. And then grabbing my black arrow tool, shift it into where I want it to be. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to click on this arrow, and I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to hit Command C, that's copy. And then I'm going to go up to Edit, Paste in Place. What that did, even though you can't see it, is paste a perfect replica of the outer eye. And then I'm going to grab the corner, hold Option Shift, and shrink it down. And what that did is it's mimicking the outside shape and making it perfect and just slightly adjustable for the pupil. Now, what I can do is take this entire image, or these two pupils, go edit, copy, edit, paste, and I have the exact same size for the pupil over here, though it should be a little bit smaller because of perspective, and we need to flip it. So object, transform, reflect, reflect vertically, perfect, just a little bit of a rotation, and there we go. We have our cross-eyed Spongebob, and he looks super happy. We'll tackle the colors later. All right. So continuing on our method of complete shapes, we need to do the teeth. So I'm going to click here, click over here, and drag until I feel like it's just perfectly overlapping the smile. Then I'm going to come out and do the teeth. Now the teeth are rounded. You don't just want to do this. That doesn't look like SpongeBob's teeth. I'm going to do a slight curve, which will then allow me to continue a slight curve, like so, and I will get rounded teeth. I'm going to do the same for this one. Slight curve, connect. And it's not perfect, so I'm going to grab that with my white arrow tool and adjust it as I need to. All right. So we got our teeth. Time to do the same for the tongue. Gonna start the tongue here, and it goes over here. Match up that. Good. Then I'm not going to include the crease of the tongue just yet. I'm just doing the outside outline of the tongue. So bulge, bulge, and then let it wrap right around to this one. Good. And then you can just create a little line like that, little extra detail. For the uvula, same thing. Going to follow the contours of the mouth for that little underline right there so that it's following. Then I'm going to click in the center of the anchor point so that I can change its direction. Start an arc until we start to get up into the uvula part, letting our pen tool do the work for us. I'm really not doing much apart from placing nodes at this point. Okay. Now I can go through the tooth because I'm going to put the tooth on top of this, which I'll show you later. So it doesn't hurt to go directly through the tooth and then do that and then go directly through the tongue as well. Because we are actually now going to right click on our tooth, go to arrange, bring to front, right click on our tongue, arrange, bring to front, and last thing, the crease in the tongue. Right click, arrange, bring to front. What that will do is when we color it, it will make it be in front of everything. Okay, so we have pretty much our face done so far. From there, the bow tie I'm going to tackle next because it's on top of the face. Same thing, this is pretty simple. At this point, you kind of already know what you guys are doing. So I'm going to do the outline of the bow. Change direction, click the center of the anchor point. Just letting all the curves I make fall into place. All right, so there's a little bulge in the tie, which means I need to click in the center of the anchor point to change direction. Okay. And then follow the bow tie. And remember, hold Option when you're connecting up. And then you can just add the details. So click, click, click. And I think there's some creases in here too. I can't see it very well because my opacity is lower than 50%, but I'm pretty sure there's some bow tie creases. Or I'm improvising, one of the two, either way. SpongeBob, from what I can see here, also has a line for his chin, which is just going to be a little arc like that. Okay. All right, so we pretty much have the front of him done, and I want to show you how to color some things before I tackle the parts that fall behind him. So the first things first is I'm going to lock these detail layers, and I am going to click on unlock the front layer and click on this. So you can get creative if you'd like. Spongebob is yellow. I don't have the exact colors with me. I mean, I could edit the transparency, but I don't want to. So I'm just going to go and find a color for Spongebob. I am going to bring this and double click on it, and that will bring up this color picker. Or you can go up here, and if you have swatches available, you can click on those. So, but I want to go in here so I can be a bit more precise. I'm going to go to yellow, and I think he's more of an obnoxious yellow, like that, and click OK. So now my Spongebob is yellow. You might have noticed that everything else is also yellow. Don't freak out. That is okay. I'm also going to change his outline to be more orange because that's a bit more natural. So I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to get like a kind of a more dusty orange. Click OK. So you might have noticed now the outline of Spongebob is orange, and I can thicken up that outline by going up here where it says stroke and click. And that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to lock the front again, unlock the detail layer. In fact, I'm going to name it details or front details. And now I can start coloring these things. First things first, I'm going to make the colors match the outline of the back of the front. So I'm holding shift. You can select multiple things at once. So holding shift, I'm going to select his dimples and his chin line. And I'm going to then grab my eyedropper tool, which is right here, or you can click eye, and just click on that path, and it will mimic it instantly, like that. What we have going on here is that the eye is currently overlapping. So I'm going to actually right-click on this detail, click Arrange, and bring it to front. Oh, and there seems to be a fill in it too. That does happen when you use the eyedropper tool, so I'm just going to go over here and hit this little slash, and there's no more fill. I'm going to do the same over here. And this one needs to be that as well. Okay. Now for his eyes, I'm going to click on both of them because they're both going to be white. And I'm going to increase the thickness of the eyes to 2 because I did that for the rest of his body. His eyelashes, I am actually going to hide the front layer by clicking this little eyeball on my layer panel to see how thick I need to make them. And I think 3 or 4 or 5 is perfect. Make that visible again. I believe his pupils are black, and his eyes are blue, if I remember correctly. Yep. It's a bit too dark. That's a bit too dark, too. There you go. And it looks like the outline of his inner eyes are a dark blue as well. So I'm going to click on his eyes, click on the line, and change it to a darker blue color and increase this to 2. Ah, no, I liked it at 1. There you go. Now, because of the way I've set up the nose, it looks a bit funny. His nose is black, and his other details are this orange color. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab my white selection tool again and click on this point, and this point, all holding the shift key, and hit copy or edit copy. Then I'm going to paste, edit, paste. Sorry, edit, paste in place. Now what you have noticed is that it duplicated those points. We need to get rid of this point up here, so click on it and hit delete. And then we need to get rid of the fill. After that, we can just click on one of these dimples, and you will see that it is now imitating that color. And I'm going to do the same with the rest of the nose. Perfect. Looks like his nose is actually a black color. So we're going to go back and do that. There you go. Okay. Just need to make this line mimic that. Okay. So from that point, I'm going to color his mouth. His tongue is going to inevitably be some light pink color. Ugh, that's an awful color. There we go. His mouth will probably be darker reddish pink color, and his uvula will be even darker than that. Perfect. And for the uvula, I'm going to take out the outline. Boop. Oh dear, the tongue needs to be put back into the front, and then the teeth can be a nice white, and I'm going to thicken up that smile as well. Awesome. The bow is red-ish. And it looks like it actually has colored line art as well. There we go. All right, so that was pretty straightforward. I'm not going to get into the detail of the holes on him. I mean, it's not that difficult. If I click with the eyedropper tool and then get rid of this, what I'll do is I'll click with the eyedropper tool, switch them around right here, and then get rid of the outline color. And then if I just use the ellipse tool, that would give me holes, right? So I don't really want to get too into that specific detail because I want to show you how to do the parts behind him now. So now that I have these layers going on, I'm actually going to create a layer underneath the front and get my pen tool and go back to just a standard black outline so that I can continue the rest of Spongebob. I'm going to start over here. And I'm doing the same thing I did before, kind of following the lines. Now this is the difference. Because the yellow part is in a layer in front of the layer that I'm working on, I can just take this line all the way up and you're not going to see it cut through the front of Spongebob. Boom. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is grab my eyedropper tool and mimic this color, but because it's on the side and going back in space a little bit, I'm going to darken it ever so slightly, like that. And now it looks like my Spongebob is going back in perspective. I just noticed a mistake here. That's going to drive me nuts. Okay, there you go. So that was pretty straightforward. And then the same could also be done for his spots. So if I copy this color and then make it slightly darker, he now has his side spots. All right, and what you might have noticed is I also got rid of an arm while I did that. So I'm going to hide this layer over here, clicking on this eyeball, so that I can do the arm. Going back to my black outline without the fill, I'm going to start with the actual squiggle part of the line. I'm going to click, and let me change the color of that. It's a little light. There you go. I'm going to click and drag, and because I'm creating a curve, I should just be able to follow that curve throughout the entire weird squiggly Spongebob arm. Yes. Click on the center of the anchor point to change direction. Otherwise, just follow the curve. Alright, going back into the curve, trying to keep things similar. Perfect. Whoops, not quite. Undo, go back. Alright, and this is another time to bring out that white arrow to tweak some things, and I don't know what I did to this. Go back, thank you. That angle's a bit funky. Alright, that's better. And then his sleeve, there's just a little line there, which I'm actually just going to have branch off of this. And then I'm going to start here, do a nice little rounded end, allow it to swoop up, round it again, and connect it back down. And now remember, because I just did that one, it's going to appear in front, which we don't want. We're going to hit arrange, send to the back. All right, so now if I grab his arm and grab our eyedropper tool and click on this, it is now the same color as the rest of him. Need to tweak this. Gonna click in the center and drag, click in the center, drag, and then make it 2-point and tweak things as I need to with my white arrow key. Awesome. And then this, I believe, is just white. So now, when I unhide the side of Spongebob, you'll end up with that. Okay. The other parts of him that need to be done need to be behind him, so I'm going to continue on that. I'm going to name this. This is side. This is arm, and I'm going to lock all of those. Create a new layer so that, and make sure it's underneath your side. You can click on these layers and drag them. I'm going to tackle the square. So once again, complete shapes to make colors, right? So I'm going to make sure that I don't have a fill, that I have my black line. Click, click, and this part's just a square. This is easy. Go up inside the sponginess, you can't see it, and click. Perfect. And then continuing for the bottom of his pants, going to follow that same angle but make it a different shape so that I can make it a different color. And then might as well tackle the sides while I'm here. He has square pants. Okay. Alrighty. So this shape is going to be white. This shape is going to be brown. More reddish brown, I think. And then lighter. And then this shape is going to be the same brown. Oh no, see what I did there? This can happen. If you accidentally connect shapes to other shapes, this is what happens. So I'm going to hit delete, and I'm going to try this again. All right. Okay, so once again, eyedropper tool, select that color, make it a little bit darker. Same with the white, select it, make it a bit of a gray, maybe a bit more of a gray. There you go. Now, if I remember correctly, there's some details here. Call that pants and lock it. We are going to grab our line tool and click and drag. Click and drag, click and drag. And if you want to use the pen tool for this, you can also do that. Click, click. Using the shift key and the black arrow tool, going to click on all of these and make it thick enough. Lock it, pant stripes, and bring that back. Am I missing anything else? Nope. I think he normally has a tie, but this is like a birthday Spongebob or something. Excuse me. Okay, from here, we're going to be working on things in the back. I'm going to create a new layer, make sure it's behind the pants, zoom in a bit, click, drag, drag, drag. And what you can see is I accidentally didn't turn off the settings from my previous one, so these lines are super thick. Just click my eyedropper tool and click on this sleeve. And then that's outer sleeve. I know it seems like an excessive amount of layers, but trust me, it's way better to keep things organized. Alright, time for the arm. Same thing I did with the other arm, just clicking and bending, trying to make my way up to the wrist, and grabbing my white arrow tool to fix things where I have to. to do this quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on the hands. Click in the center to change direction. Alright. Close enough. Okay. Time to finish this arm. It takes a little bit of time. I know I'm doing this quickly. I've been using the pen tool for years, but it is such a useful tool once you get the hang of it. Use the eyedropper tool. Mimic that. Awesome. Then time for the pants. Needing this outer arm. New layer. And the shoes are going to be a fun, complex mess. Oops, I accidentally hit print. Okay. These are similar to the sleeves. They're kind of just little rounded areas that I've accidentally made Spongebob color. So I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool and do that color, I guess. Alright. Pant legs. New layer. And I want to get rid of that color. Follow the funky bend of his... I don't even know if he has knees. He's a sponge. Okay. Okay, clicking, bending, bending. Right. So kind of like what we had to do with the eyes, there's some extra details in here. So I'm going to go over here and click and drag. And I'm going to mimic this outside shape by following the anchor points. I'm going to also pick a different line color because that is a ridiculous color for a guide. There we go. So click, drag, drag, drag. Not giving much instruction at this point because I've given plenty. And then the shoes I'm going to do on a different layer entirely. So grabbing his little legs and the eyedropper tool, getting it to be the same color. Then his socks, eyedropper tool for the white. And there were little details in the socks, looks like blue and red lines. So I'm going to grab this, make sure there's no fill, do a couple lines. And then the bottom line was red, I believe. The top line, holding shift to select multiple things, was blue. And you see what's happened here? We have a weird little issue where the blue line and the black and the red line look funny on top of the black line. So what I'm actually going to do is select both of these, go to Edit Copy, Edit Paste in Place. Don't freak out, they are covering it. That's not too bad. Make sure you're clicking on the white fill color and hit that little X. Perfect. Legs. Now his shoes, I'm actually going to use... Yeah, I'm going to send them to the back. So, new layer, name it shoes. And then I'm going to follow these lines. And because the shoes are black, it's not too, you don't need to add too much detail. Where we're going to add the detail is in some of the highlights, which I will show in a minute. All right, I'm going to click in the center, hold shift so there's a flat surface, and then start this again. The center of the point, and there's one shoe. Connect it through the leg because it's behind, no big deal. And this foot's in the air, so it's all curves, no flat bits. Before I fill these with color, I do want to acknowledge the highlights. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and I'm going to make a circle there. Grab my black arrow tool so I can rotate it. And then I'm going to do the same up here. Make an ellipse. Use my black arrow tool to rotate it. And then, oh dear, I zoomed out too much. Okay. Then I'm going to click on these. I'm going to fill them with white, and I'm going to get rid of the black stroke. Oops. Perfect. Then I'm going to click on the shoes. And then over here where there's this arrow, just click the switch, and then you have black shoes. And I can see some mistakes in my legs, so this is a perfect time to go in and show us the white arrow tool again. So I'm going to go up and grab the white arrow tool. I am going to find my leg line. I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to try to shift it in a little bit so that it's not as visible and it doesn't look quite as weird. Okay. Same with over here. Click on the leg line, grab my arrow tool, start tucking those guys in so it's not quite as visible. Perfect. Oh, and then the red, there's one red poking out too. A little hard to see that node. There it is. Perfect. All right, so, oh, the hat. Forgot about the hat. Hat will be easy, no big deal. Except for maybe the irritating fuzzy. Okay, grabbing the black. I'm just going to do straight lines in and out, no curves, very simple, just a little bit frustrating all the way around for this. Alrighty, close enough. And then a little bit of a roundness to it. It would look silly if it was just flat. The hat and cut it across. And to make sure that the puff ball appears on top, right click on it, arrange, bring to front. The white puff ball is white, and then there are going to be red stripes in this one, so I need to get it back in there and start making some stripes. So what's really important when it comes to doing anything like this is and I can't say it enough, you really, really need to make sure you're using the pen tool. If you did this with the brush tool, it would be a mess. There are ways to illustrate with the brush tool, but they are not what I would recommend for something like this. Layers, what I'm doing right now, which is bringing shapes to the front, all of that stuff is really important when it comes to deciding what you're working on first, what order it belongs in, how it's going to look, and everything like that. Okay, so there you go. I have my Spongebob. I mean, I don't have all of the holes and stuff. That would just be too much detail. So if I were to hide this, you wouldn't even see it. Look, looks quite nice, doesn't it? And then you go to File, Print. We're going to send this to Carl. Defined by driver right here, US letter. And my guy is touching the edges a little bit, so I need to scale him down a little bit. So don't do this normally, but I'm going to hit Fit to Page and then hit Print. So that'll go to Carl now, and then File, Export, Export As, and I believe he wants it as a PDF, which in that case shouldn't be over here. We go File, Save As, Adobe PDF, and then we need the naming convention, which is Spongebob, Michelle Spackman, and however you want to do the date, just be wary of dashes. So it is 9/19/18. Save. I want to select high quality print and hit save. All right, and that should be it. You can get creative with your Spongebob if you want. Nothing is saying that it has to be this. I mean, for all I know, he could be bright pink with bright green lines that are thick. I mean, it looks disgusting, but why not? So have some fun with this. Don't get too frustrated. Raise your hand if you need any help. Thanks, guys.